Thank you very much, and I just would like to start with a very, very short note, which I had to write down because, as you might appreciate, closer to the anniversary of the terrorist attack, the more difficult it is for the victims. The first time I was here, I was invited in January. That was also difficult to speak, and I was very, very honored to be here and share my personal experience, because I believe it's not only a possibility, but also we have to explain and respond to all of these amazing explanations, proposals, ideas, what it means in real life for victims to be a victim. And what I experienced, and first I would like to go through this slide very quickly and pay a tribute to all those for various reasons who cannot be with us today, and also to explain what it means to be a victim, and what it means in real life, double, triple, continuous victimization, and what it is about to be a survivor. Because on the day of the terrorist attack, on the 22nd of March, 2 years ago, first I was a victim. I suffered a very serious injury from the bomb. My pelvic was broken by a 10 centimeters bomb, and for a very long time I was waiting for medical support, and because I wasn't able to speak, it was very difficult to explain and tell people that I was in a really bad situation. Obviously they couldn't see because the injury was on my pelvic. I was wearing a black skirt, black tights, and there were others more visible, and I felt that I was about to die. And I was lying down in front of the dead, in front of all those injured who weren't able to move. And thanks to a very special friend who, by miracle, I passed the phone to someone next to me about half an hour after the terrorist attack, who called him back, and he was helping me to find and basically grab a doctor to put me into an ambulance car. That time I was I truly was a victim, and later on when I was taken into the hospital, I felt that I was a survivor. I was a survivor because I didn't die. I'm the mother of a 9-year-old daughter. I'm a single mother, and of course you can appreciate what I felt the first minute when I was thinking about my daughter and thinking about luckily she wasn't with me, but of course how to sort out her daily care and what's happening with her, where she is, and how can I talk to her the first possible opportunity. But I was a survivor because I was in very good hands in the hospital. And of course, when we talk about victims, there are clearly certain categories. There are implications for physical, psychological, and financial, and of course we can go on what other implications there are. But at the moment in the hospital, I was in need of medical support, and in the hospital, I and I believe all the other victims received full attention. I was taken to Antwerp because by the time I got into an ambulance car, I believe that was the nearest hospital that could take me, and I believe that was also specialized in the injury what I had. And I can just say full thanks to everybody in the hospital who provided support for 3 weeks when I was there. But I think when the secondary or I don't know how many victimization starts when we get out of the hospital, especially in a foreign country, because you might have seen that I'm a Hungarian national living in Belgium, so by definition I'm a citizen in Belgium over 5 years, and I had to find solutions here. Even if the Hungarian government, they were informed that I was a victim. They immediately contacted me. They provided, they offered support. They offered to take me back to Hungary. But I was thinking about, my home is here. My daughter goes to school here. I cannot just take her out of the school and cause her even more trauma. I need to find a solution in Belgium, in the country where I live, in the heart of Europe. So I had to find short, mid, and I believe short-term solutions as well in this country. The very short-term solutions included the fact that I indeed lost everything at the airport, all my bank cards. I couldn't get access to my money laying in the hospital. Without the support of my colleagues and my employer and my family, I wouldn't be able to survive because we need to make sure that the family, the invoices and everything is under control. During that period, during that 3 weeks, indeed, I received a call from someone in the Belgian government, and I was really happy to receive that call. But what I found really difficult to react when I received a number of I can't remember how many pages of brochure that I had to fill out, which obviously I wasn't able to, lying in a hospital bed, to fill out, even just to receive immediate financial support. And that was just to give you one example. So I go to the next slides. This is the injury. You can see that indeed I was really lucky in a way that if the bomb goes just a little bit above, I could have died, and any other parts. Basically, it hit me the strongest parts, which was also impossible to break it to this extent. It was fixed with this metal, which is still in my body, and I need to live with it. But when my personal secondary victimization started, when I faced myself on my own, basically taken to the 3rd floor, which is officially 2nd floor, but as you can see, it's technically the 3rd floor where I lived without elevator. For 3 months, I wasn't able to leave the building without external support. And what does it mean? Basically, one of my friends is sitting here. They came over even just to go outside to breathe and to see other people. They had to carry me down on a chair because I wasn't supposed to move. In this situation, basically on my own, of course, supported with friends, family, and my employer, I had to find a solution to my accommodation, and also about psychological support, which is a very special support. And I didn't receive any guidance from any official body about who to contact in Belgium. Not to mention that I had to find someone who is able to provide support in English. So my employer in the U.S. from New York, I still remember those conversations. Through an international network, they were helping to identify someone who can provide psychological support. And at the same time, one of my friends in Belgium, who is also an expat, was also trying, basically calling friends and other friends to find someone who can help me to start my psychological recovery. So months passed. I was fully supported with family and friends, and I was concentrating on my recovery and how to get back to reality and what's next. And this is the apartment I had to buy. Before I was in a rented apartment, and there was only one available apartment which fit all the criteria, which was near to my daughter's school, access free, and that was on sale. And I had to take a huge financial burden, which is again an indirect consequence of the terrorist attack, because I asked help from the insurance companies, I asked help from basically everybody, but apart from immediate financial support from my family, I wasn't able to get any other support. The insurance company even refused to install a lift, which could help me to live. And of course, the lift is not just to live, but to get out of this very difficult psychological situation. So I moved into this apartment in the hope that I can get back to normal. At that time, I had not received any financial support from anywhere. So there was no other choice to meet all expectations, financial expectations of my daughter, and of course my colleagues. After 7 months, I went back to work, and you can imagine that I wasn't fully ready. But I was very lucky because my employer provided an environment, which is also very important, with full flexibility about accommodating all of my needs. And that needs a big courage from the employer side, because they had no experience. It's a huge organization with over 250,000 employees all over the world, and I was the first victim of a terrorist attack. So they were very committed to support me, and they kept asking me what kind of help I was looking for, and whatever I asked, they were accommodating. Yeah, that's basically the last slide which I have, and I just wanted to explain. He's the president of Hungary, and the fact that I was so much supported from my country of origin, how much it meant to me, and in fact, everybody should receive the same support from the country where they live. Because we are in Europe, and the response, how we respond, and of course I'm hearing some political messages as well. But I try to stay on my very personal level. What we feel is how Europe, how we in the countries we live, is able to respond to these terrorist threats, which are not against individuals, but against principles. And without getting into details, of course, I can share that how badly impacts victims when we feel that a terrorist whose public hearing happened a couple of weeks ago received more support, over 100 people looking after them, immediate legal support, someone sitting next to a terrorist, whereas at the same time we as victims, we are not able to receive support, administrative support, and any other support which a terrorist, just to say an example. As I mentioned, this is the second time I'm here, and I'm very lucky to be here and very honored to share experience and try to reflect on what we hear from experts, what it means in real life, and I'm a public policy expert in a different area. Having said that, based on experience, I can draw some conclusions, and even without understanding the specific legislative proposals, I can tell that there are certain, and this is just a short list, and I'm very happy to contribute later on with further examples, what I feel that could be done by stakeholders at government level, at EU level, and more specifically because we are in the European Parliament, And one of my recommendations as such is that I understand that many victims received support. That's true. I believe that's true. Apart from the immediate financial support, which I received, by the way, 1.5 years later, I haven't received any compensations. And I believe there should be, based on very hard facts, the European Parliament responsibility to ask responsible from governments or representations, whoever needs to be contacted, to provide, based on hard facts, how many people received compensation and support, and what kind of support received. And if they haven't received, for example, I'm one of the examples, why? And to be able to provide a very specific response on the whys as well. Of course, they reduce the unnecessary red tape, and that's another example what it means for us being secondary victims, because we are victims of the procedure in that manner. As I previously mentioned, in January in the Parliament, that one point of contact for victims regarding legal assistance, insurance, compensation would be extremely beneficial. The responsibility should lie with them rather than on the victims, and no need to explain. The more someone emotionally impacted as a victim, the more difficult it is to even to start and think about legal procedures, because we have to make a choice. I had to make a choice whether I go back to work or stay at home and give up. And of course, as I explained, as you can see, I decided to go back to real life. At the same time, it doesn't leave me energy to focus on compensation, which I believe I should receive, and I already my medical expenses were covered, but there are of course other expenses and non-medical expenses, the various losses you mentioned that victims should be able to recover to where they started. In fact, it doesn't exist. We need to find a new way, and we need to accept that as a professional in my age, that it has an impact on my career. Who is going to compensate me? That the loss of promotion. You could see the injury. I cannot bear a child anymore, and I could list what other implications they have on life, what it means for us, and of everything's got an emotional impact. As Professor mentioned, it's a chain, and what is added to these chains that I feel that in this country, in the heart of Europe, I'm outsourced to insurance doctors, and that I shared several times, that I'm over 12 medical visits, asking pretty much the same questions all the time, pulling back from recovery, facing me what happened during the crime scenes, and the insurance company should decide my compensation. And there's a huge conflict of interest. The insurance company is not interested in supporting victims. The insurance company is not interested in making it easy for victims. And their interest is to elongate and pay as little as possible. And we are exposed to these doctors. And I also mentioned here in the Parliament in January that after the first medical doctor's visit, the cold questioning resulted in a panic attack, and that wasn't the first panic attack which I had as a result of questioning from insurance doctors. And I understand that I'm over my time, but I very much appreciate this opportunity because it's very important for victims to feel that our issues are being discussed. We are still on the agenda because sometimes we feel lonely, sometimes we feel that we are forgotten. Thank you very much.